everybody, how are you doing? I am so glad to be back with you after a couple of very rough weeks in mine and the Beading Dreams' life. Yes, exciting. Oh, I never did. Oh, I walked away with my pendant. I didn't even put it back on. Anyway, yeah, exciting times. Food poisoning, air conditioning going out, all kinds of fun hijinks. So I'm sorry I've been a bit of a flake for the past couple weeks, but hopefully, knock on all of the wooden surfaces, everything is knocking things down now. Everything is going to be hunky-dory for a little while at least. So our project for today is the 5-drop necklace. And this one is fairly old, so I don't actually have a sample, so I am 100% going to cheat and put up I'm gonna pull up a reference photo on my phone just to make sure I teach it right. So how's everybody doing? I missed you guys on Zoom. I was passed out trying not to, die, and better now though. So yes, no more delivery Greek food for me, I think, for a while, because not fun. Not a fun experience at all. Okay, so let's talk tools and supplies for this evening's project. You are going to need 2 different gauges of wire. You're going to need some 16. That's going to be for the C16. That's a thicker wire. That's going to be for the actual kind of frame that's going to be holding our teardrops. And then you're going to need some 26 gauge wire, which, as you can see, is much thinner. That's going to be for actually attaching our teardrops onto our frame that we have made. And then, of course, 5-drop necklace means we need 5 teardrops. And this is a combo that, what the actual heck is going on with my focus? Thank you. This is a combo that I actually really like, which is labradorite and peridot. I'm going to move myself over to the other. No, not that one. This one. Oh, I'm super excited, Lori. I've been telling everybody we're supposed to have a thunderstorm in 11 days. Of course, knowing Texas, we're not going to have a thunderstorm in 11 days. We're going to have the chance of a thunderstorm, and it's never going to happen. But hey, don't harsh on my dream, people. Also, autofocus apparently is not happy with me today, so let me just fix that real quick. Let's see, configure. God, I would love a thunderstorm so much. My garden would love it even more. There's so much that's just like, I know it's not dead, it's only mostly dead. It's just like all of the foliage has died back, and like the plant is just like barely hanging on, and I'll cut them all down and they'll come back in the fall. But yeah, it's just sad right now. And just looking at all the like dollar value that I've spent in plants and the size of my water bill, and everything is still dying. Okay, so 5 drops. I like to have a bigger one in the middle, so I'm going to use this really pretty lab. Nice flashy lab. And then I'm going to do 4 of the peridot. And so I'm going to try and pick 4 that kind of are similarly sized, which I think is going to be those 4. Okay, so I've got 4 peridot. And then I'm also going to need to have some little bitties, because if you look at the photo, one of the cool embellishments around the center is that there's just sort of a hoop of littler beads going around it as an embellishment, and that's just kind of a really fun little touch. You can do that or not, it's up to you. Oh, Stanley may have acne. Yeah, my mom's kitty also has acne, so I'm familiar. She's also a very good kitty. She does not like the face wipes at all, but she will tolerate them because she's a good girl. So for my tiny beads, I'm using these really pretty 2mm olive colored cubic zirconia. Those are from our brand new 8-inch strand trunk show, which may or may not be appearing on stream tomorrow. I haven't decided because we've got so much other stuff that still has not appeared on stream. Okay, so I'm going to start by making my frame. And my frame is, once again, if you take a gander at the photo, it's actually 2 pieces. So there's the swoopy piece at the top, and then there's the piece at the bottom that's going to hold your beads. So let's start with the swoopy piece at the top. I'm going to take my 16 gauge wire, can move my beads to the side for the moment, rearrange my work area, and everything is in different places. So I'm going to go ahead and take that and cut So you can make this basically as wide or as narrow as you want, but remember that the wider you make it, like eventually it's going to become wider than your neck, and that's going to look a little awkward. For this one, I like kind of preserving that sort of V shape, which means what I want is I want my finished piece to be approximately 2.5 inches, and then I want another inch for looping my loops. And of course, when I redid my work surface, I did not put a ruler back on there, so that was real smart of me. And haha, ruler. So we're going to do about 3.5 inches of our 16 gauge wire. Yes, I'm advertising for another company. No, at this particular moment, I don't care. All right, 3.5. And then I'm just going to, I might as well cut the one for the bottom as well. And this one needs to be longer because we have more loops. The good thing about this though is we can actually start at the middle, do all of our loops, and then adjust it to size. So I'm just gonna cut 6 inches. It's probably way more than I need. It's almost certainly way more than I need, but better too much than not enough. So I'm gonna cut a 6-inch piece for my bottom, and I'm gonna set that aside for a minute. And now we're going to make our top piece. So as far as tools go, you're going to need 4 tools for today's class. You are going to need your basic set of 3, so you're going to need to find a place for your ruler, sit there. You're going to need a round nose and chain nose and wire cutter, and I'm using a heavy duty cutter because 16 gauge wire. And you're going to need a bail making pliers or a series of mandrels. You didn't see that. That didn't happen. Because you're going to be making your loops varying sizes, so you're going to need to have varying size loops on your pliers that you can work with. I'm going to start with just our round nose, and those are going to just be used to make the loops on the ends of this center piece. And I'm going to go ahead and make one loop and do a little bit of a length check. After that, I might wind up cutting off some of my wire. But I'm just going to take my round nose pliers and the biggest part of my round nose, and I'm going to grab at the biggest part of my pliers. That's what I just said. What I meant to say was I'm going to grab at the very end of my wire. Okay, I want to make sure that there's no wire that's sticking out the other side of that. Then I'm going to, as usual, brace with my thumb and just rotate around. Now, in my opinion, bracing your wire on your thumb, and I mean, you can see I really am pushing on my thumb, is the key to getting a nice crisp loop. If you don't do that, you tend to get this really weird shaped, kind of attenuated loop, and it doesn't look like the clean circle that we really want for this project. Now, once I can't bend my wrist anymore, because it don't go no further than that, we're going to grab our wire, loosen, and just rotate back to where we started. Now notice that I'm rotating my pliers independently of the wire, so my wire's not going anywhere while my pliers are moving. Then I'm going to grab again and rotate until that wire has created a closed loop, meaning that the one piece of wire is touching the other piece of wire. And I did a little bit of a screw up there, so I'm just going to fix that. There we go. Okay, so what you want is you want this. You want a nice clean loop that kind of looks like a P shape. You do not need to center this because we're going to incorporate this into the overall curve of our piece. Now, once again, I want this to be about 2.5 inches long. So this should actually be about right. So I'm going to, I do want to flush cut my end just because I don't like the way that pointy end looks. That's just me being nitpicky. There we go, and we're just going to roll, come back, and roll. So now you should have this kind of bar type thing with a loop on each end. Now, they're different sizes. It's not the end of the world, but I kind of want them to be the same. So I'm just going to cut a little bit off of this bigger one and then roll it round again. Yeah, my kitty Prana had kitty acne on and off as well. Scared the crap out of me the first time he got it. Yeah, that's better. Because all of a sudden he comes in the room and he had scratched it open and he was just like, and he was a tabby, but he had a white chest. It was just like all bloody down his white chest. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And he was an indoor only cat, so wasn't like, you know, he would have gotten into some kind of fracas with some critter because he didn't leave the house. Though speaking of critters, let's see, Elton was kind enough to bring me a present during the great heat wave. I guess he thought maybe it would help me stay cool. But yes, he brought me a lizard, and I had to catch it in the bathroom whilst recovering from food poisoning and also dying of heat stroke. So yes, that's a Texas fence lizard, by the way, if anybody is wondering. They are harmless. They're not small, as you can see. That's a regular, you know, food prep container, and he pretty much takes up the whole thing. I hate, like, when I have to catch the lizards, I'm like, dude, just let me catch you, because trust me, if you stay in this house with these 2 murder cats, you are not going to live to tell the tale. But of course, you know, lizard brain, you know, doesn't work that way. Yeah, they're about 6 inches, they're about yay long, maybe a little bit longer, 6-7 inches to the tip of their tail. Yeah, the fence lizards are stout. And then he also, this morning, he brought in one of the little gecko-y ones, who skittered away. I'm like, you know, it's really not the best plan. I know it feels like the best plan, but it really isn't, because the murder cats are going to find you, and then you're going to be sad. So, all right, so I've got my top piece, and I'm going to go ahead and curve that, and there are a couple of ways I can do that, but I am going to go to my trusty ring stick, and I'm just going to, oh, Mamie brought in a butterfly the other day, and I hope I saved it. I think I saved it. Maybe not. I'm like, no killing butterflies. Butterflies are good. Okay, so I'm just going to take my ring stick, and so I want the loops to be up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just bend gently like so that I've got a nice curve with my loops on the top. And what I actually find is going to be easier is to go up a little bit tighter than you want and then just kind of pull it out. So what you're looking for is sort of a gentle curve, like so. Oh, well, randomly showed up in your house. See, that's a little bit more disturbing than, you know, cats bringing them to you, because you're like, how are frogs getting into my house? I wonder. At least I know how lizards are getting into my house. They're being forcibly brought in. My cats are kidnappers of lizards. I'm wondering if this is a long enough piece that I cut. We're about to find out. We may have to do this a second time. So what I really like to do with this is I like to kind of vary the shape and size of the loops. So I'll make the first one kind of large and teardroppy, and then the second one a larger circle, and then the third one on each side a smaller circle, and then end with a very small circle. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to find the center of this wire. Okay. And so then I'm going to go to the bail making pliers. I'm going to go to the middle section. Yes, by the Feline Patrol, except really I think the Feline Patrol just wants snacks. Because Mamie and Elton were both feral for the first, you know, 6 months to a year of their life. It was about 6 months for Mamie, and it was about a year for Elton. And so, like, I mean, feral cats in Texas, like, eating up the lizards. Okay, so we're going to go up and across so that what we have is a teardrop, but I screwed this up because you can see very, very clearly that they are not the same length. So obviously I didn't do a good job of finding the center. I really want these two to be the same length, my two ends, so that I don't run out of wire on one side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shift this over. I'm going to bring this over like this, and I'm just going to shift my loop over by pulling the long one over and then bringing the short one up until I've got Okay, there we go. Okay, so the ends are even. The loop looks absolutely terrible. So we're gonna fix that next. Okay, so what I've done is I've just taken my wires and I've bent them down flat so that I have just a circle that's flat against my bail making pliers. Now I'm going to just raise those two up to make a crossing, and it's maybe not as extreme of a teardrop as I would have liked, but at this point I'm going to say that that is a good center loop. So now I'm going to stay with the middle part of my pliers, and I'm going to just seat it right here in this corner, like so. Okay, so I've got my, all right, so I've got my loop there, and then I've got my pliers seated in the corner, and then I'm just going to take this wire and bring it around my pliers and rotate them so that I'm not hitting them, and there we go. So that is my next loop. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So take my pliers, seat them in this corner, and just bend it around. So you can just keep kind of rotating your pliers if you want until you've got that all the way bent around, because what you don't want to do is make kind of a weird bobbly strange loop. Okay, so now all right, we're gonna see how, ooh, this is like wire chicken, y'all. I don't know if I can handle this. All right, here we go. We're gonna see if it works, because I still have to have enough to make another loop. All right, you know what? I'm gonna hedge my bets, and I'm gonna go for my round nose, which are a little bit smaller than that. So I'm gonna hold with my round nose, but once again, you've got this corner right here, so you're gonna seat your pliers in the corner, and then you're gonna bend that wire around. Oh, I think I'm not gonna make it, y'all. I think I'm not gonna make it. Nope, not enough. Not enough wire there to finish it out. All right, so womp womp. That's a fail. I feel like I need like a button or something that will give me like, I can, you know, pull up a scene and it'll be like, fail. Okay, so this was 6 inches of wire, which it seems shocking was not enough to create a 2.5 inch piece, and yet here we are. So we're gonna go ahead and chunk that in the scrap, and we're gonna try again with an 8-inch piece of wire, because by gosh and golly, I am not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna have to do this again, I swear. So 8 inches of wire, that just means you get to see all of this again. It's actually 9 inches, even better. Okay, so ah, love. I'm so glad that's going to a good home, because it's such a pretty strand. Okay, so now we're going to do this at slightly fast pace, meaning basically just the way that I would do it if I were just doing it and not teaching it, until we get to the point where I screwed up, and then I will stop and continue at teaching pace. So we're going to find our middle, and we're just going to go around and around, and luckily for me, I did a better job of it this time, so I actually have a nice little teardrop shape. Now we're going to take our bail making pliers and seat them in that corner, pull our wire around, and then just kind of rotate our pliers around so that we can make a nice circle without having to go over this part of the pliers, because that's going to make it ugly. So we want, once again, we just want everything to kind of be in a line at this point going up. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Like so. And go around. And once I've reached the point where I can't move it anymore without going around that, I'm just going to kind of keep ooching it. Like so. And then I'm going to do the third one, which is going to be smaller. I can use this now because I have plenty of wire. And once again, I'm going to go around exactly the same way. Come on, go. So there's your third one. And then here's your last one. That's going to hold beads. So you're just going to hold it, and again, just keep bringing it around. And you want it to form nice and tightly against those bail making pliers so that you have a nice loop. Alright, so there we go. So there are our 5 loops. Now we are going to make one more loop, and I do have now too much wire, which is fine. I'd much rather that than the other. So I'm going to cut around 1/2 inch. And just use my round nose pliers to turn down a small loop. This one's not going to hold anything. It's just basically the end of the piece. So just grab with your round nose and just turn around a small loop. Alright, so that should be your piece. Now, the alignment of this one is much more attractive than the alignment of this one, so I'm going to take my chain nose. I'm just going to fix this one by bringing it up a bit so that it's more in line. And then I might need to just take this and rotate it around a bit more. So that's definitely, you know, it's kind of like doing your eye makeup, and like they never turn out the same. That's actually what the problem is this loop had gotten kind of sucked smaller, so we're gonna just go ahead and close that up. And really, there's always one nice piece and one problem child. So the last thing I'm going to, hi Mandy, how you doing? Seriously, how are you doing? You survived North Carolina, I'm assuming, since you are. Funny. Okay, so this is our piece, and then these 2 pieces are what are going to get attached to our chain if we get that far. If we don't, then it's pretty simple. Okay, so obviously I have overestimated the length of this, so I'm going to go ahead and shorten this. So I'm making a pretty dainty piece, which is fine because my peridot are pretty dainty. So I'm just going to take this, and once again, I'm going to need more than, a 1/2 inch. I'm going to need more like 3/4 of an inch. And then we're going to take our, this was our round nose. They suck like they were a pain to get, but they're working, or they suck like they're not working at all. And once again, I've got this wackety bit here, so we're just going to go ahead and it's always funny when you see it coming. You're like, you're gonna roll off, and your cats are just like, meh, 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 whatever, meh, 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 boom. And yes, that's always very amusing. Okay, so this is workable. Okay, so I wound up cutting off about that much of it and re-looping it, and this is gonna be, I think, a really pretty pendant. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna bind these 2 together. So I'm just gonna take some of my 26 gauge wire. I'm going to be using a lot of this, so it really doesn't matter how much you cut off at a time because you're probably going to wind up using it. Oh, that sucks, Mandy. That really sucks. How long do you have to do that for? Okay. I'm so sorry. That incredibly sucks. All right, so now we're going to bind these 2 together, and so we're just going to bind them right at this point here. So I'm going to be binding on the empty wire here, the straight wire, and through this whole single uno hole. So I'm just going to stick it up through the hole and then give myself plenty to hold down, and then bring it underneath my wire like so, and then down through that hole. I mean, the things we do to not be in pain, yes, but I feel like none of them are helping you. All right, so that I have a nice tight kind of wire stitch there, and then I'm gonna repeat. And remember my, awful double chin move that I do to keep the wire from kinking? It really does work, I promise. It doesn't look very attractive on camera, but hopefully well, even if you are beading on camera, you can look as attractive or unattractive as you like. The important thing here is that we pull this tight, because if we don't pull it tight, it's just gonna all be wobbly and it's not gonna hang nicely, because it's just gonna be all kind of all over the place and cattywampus. You wanna make sure when you're coming down to the tightest end of your wire that you make sure it doesn't kink. And about 4 wraps is sufficient. Ooh, boy. Okay, we'll have to chat. I mean, is this just while you're healing, or is this like a you should do this for the rest of your life kind of thing? All right, so that was 4 times. So I'm just gonna bring this up over the top and snip it. I'm gonna crimp it in a minute, so there's no point really in tucking in the end now, because when I crimp it, it's just gonna kind of sproing back out. Thank you. This is a fun one. This is what it looks like when it is finished. All right, so here we go with Beading. It is pretty. I like this one a lot. Okay, so now this is bound together. I'm going to crimp both of these at the same time, so now I'm just going to move to my other side. You may have a little bit of spring tension going here. They would be cute earrings. There's just not enough time to do earrings in a 1 hour, which usually for me is 30 to 45 minute tutorial. So you might have a little bit of spring tension here. That's actually good. So now we're going to wrap these 2 together as well. So I'm going to take my wire up through the small loop and just pinch it, and then we're going to wrap around and over the top and then down through the loop, and then around and over the top and then down through your loop. And again, 4 times, so this is 3 times. And 1 more for 4. Okay, then we're going to trim that off, and we're going to trim off our other ends as well to make them nice and short. So just trim them as close to that coil as you possibly can. And then we're going to take our chain nose and we're just going to crimp all of those coils nice and flat. And see how that brings our wires nice and close together in parallel or somewhat parallel formation. We're going to crimp that. And then if you have any wires at this point that are kind of sticking out, you can take your chain nose and just sort of bring them in and push them down. Because you don't want wires just randomly sticking out from this, because it's very rough and it's not going to feel good against your skin. Okay, so now it's time to add our beads. So once again, we've got 4 smaller drops and 1 larger drop that we are going to add onto this piece today. Now, if you wanted to hammer this, you absolutely could. If you do that, you want to make sure you're only hammering on the round parts of the loops, not hammering where those 2 wires cross, because if you do that, you run the risk of breaking your wires. All right, so we're going to start with the center one because that's the most complicated one. And it starts with me wondering where my 4th peridot has gone to, because it's missing. So that's exciting. Peridot, where are you? I found a really pretty bicolor tourmaline, but that's not the peridot I was looking for. Okay, I might have to swap out for 2 smaller ones then. Well, it's not that. Okay, it's around here somewhere, theoretically. Okay, so we're going to start with the center one because that's the hardest. So I'm going to start with a regular top drilled wire wrap. So we've done this before on previous tutorials, but for anybody who doesn't remember or is not familiar, if you're going to wrap a top drilled bead, meaning a teardrop or any other bead that has a hole, one second. Sorry. I know, right? Isn't it great? Story of my life too. Sorry, I'm trying to cut down on caffeine, which is great, but I need to remember to drink it before stream. Alright, so hopefully that will hit me in a minute, and I'll stop yawning, but seriously, Keiko, I know how do the gremlins move things so swiftly and stealthily to other places in our lives. Okay, so take your wire and put it through your drop. And you want to make sure that you have a short side and a long side of wire, which I do. Now you're going to go ahead and pull your wire up against the hole of your bead. And you're going to do that with both of your wires so that you make a triangle. And you want the point of that triangle to be directly above the point of your bead. Now you're going to go ahead and take your chain nose pliers. You're going to grab the long wire and you're going to bend it straight up so that now our long wire is aligned with the central axis of our bead. Then we're going to wrap the short wire around the long wire 1.5 times. We haven't gotten to the lady with the scarf, Mandy's. Hashtag spoilers. I'm going to wrap the short one around the long one 1.5 to 2 times. And then we're going to trim it off nice and short. And try not to do what I just did, which is pull it off center. Okay, so you want to make sure when you've done this that your focus is just not completely bollocksed up like mine is. And I just fixed it. So what the what? What the what, camera? What the what? I think it's because I was looking at it in the tiny preview window and not the like actual window. Okay, so that's a little bit better. We can go ahead and that's first. It's like at the eye doctor. Which is better, A or B? A or B? Okay, but hopefully you can see that a little bit better now. So I've wrapped it around and now I'm going to trim it as close to my coil as possible. So I'm going to get as close in there as I can with my wire cutters, and I'm going to snip. And then I'm going to press it down, which sometimes means kind of coming from the side to bring it over and then pressing it down. But again, the goal is that you don't have a little pointy bit coming out. Now we're going to do the second half of our top drilled wire wrap, which is going to be our basic wire wrap. So that is going to start with our round nose pliers. And we're going to place our round nose pliers so that they are touching the top of the wrap that we just did. Now your procedure for your basic wire wrap is going to be to take your non-plier hand. Okay, so I've got my pliers in my right hand. This is my left hand, this is my non-plier hand, and I'm going to push that wire away from me over my pliers to make a 90-degree angle. Then I'm going to loosen my pliers, Don't take them out of that little corner though. Sometimes for some people it's helpful to rest it on your finger like I am. Rotate it just a little bit so that you can grab right on that corner you just made. Now take the wire that is behind your plier, bring it back up over the top towards you and down until it hits your bead in the front. Now, once again, we're going to loosen our pliers, rotate them independently of our wire half a turn, and grab, and then we're going to take that wire and we're going to push it underneath our pliers and away from us to make, as Mandy already spoiled, our lady with a scarf. So the things to look for when you're at this point with your lady with a scarf is your lady centered, okay? If you were going to draw a line up through the center of the bead, would it pass through the center of your lady's head? In this case, we are good and centered. We want to make sure that these wires are crossing at about a 90-degree angle, and now we're good to go. So now I'm going to take my lady with a scarf, and it's going to get linked onto the largest loop on our component, the center one. So I'm just going to take that wire, thread it through that loop, and pop it on there. And then we're going to take our chain nose pliers, and hold across everything like so. Now I'm going to just wrap down until I get to where my end is that already exists, and then I'm going to keep wrapping until I get to the top of my bead. You want to make sure you're pulling your wire so you get nice tight wraps. Alright, Peridot, you're going over here because I don't want to lose another one of you. Alright, so you've got nice tight wraps, and now your bead is securely attached to your loop, but it still will dangle freely. So now we're going to go to our bitty beads. And so once again, I've got some cute 2mm cubic zirconia that are part of our brand new 8-inch gemstone strand trunk show. And I'm going to open that strand. And I'm going to string enough of my little beads onto this wire to go around my teardrop. So I just want to make a frame around my teardrop. So coming up around 7:30, and I'm going to try and get this podcast or this tutorial done before 7:30, is going to be the button list with Allison and Heather. We are going to be discussing random topics whilst playing a game called the Queen's English, where we stupid Americans try and translate British slang or guess the meaning of British slang. So it should be fun. It'll be especially fun if Dogsy or Good Vibes winds up on the stream tonight.
Yes.
Though I think they should not be allowed to play because they are ringers. Okay, so you can see that I'm starting to make my little accent loop around there.
It's also vintage, like antique, ancient.
Well, that's fair, but I still feel like... Is it ancient though? I don't know. Anyway, it's going to be fun. Come watch us. Alright, I'm going to string these because I can string them faster like this, and watching me string things on camera is not the most exciting thing, I'm pretty sure, of your day.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, well, you can watch yourself string things on camera anytime you want. Just turn on the camera and watch yourself string things.
Well, I can't really watch myself stream while I'm streaming.
Well, yes you can if you're over here.
But I can't look up and down at the same time. That's what I'm saying. I guess if I put my phone in front of me, I could watch myself watching myself stream.
But there's a delay, so that would be even weirder. Like, it would be even more trippy because there's a delay.
Yep. This is not weird or turning awkward in any way, thank goodness.
Oh, is it your... I'm sure it's your home smoked pastrami, which just makes me incredibly jealous. as do all of your yummy smoked meats. I have not tried my smoker yet. Never seems to be the right time. Okay, so here we go. That's my little accent loop. And then I'm just going to wrap back around my little stick. And this one's a little awkward because see how it wants to keep bouncing up? So you just have to sort of finesse it a bit. And I'm sorry, the angle for me is a huge part of that. The other thing that I find really, really helps, which is not helpful for camera, but is if you hold everything nice and tight in its place and then give a really good pull and bring that around. And once you've got the first one around, then it's locked, and then you can just wrap a couple more times. And if you want to come back down to make it thicker, you can do that as well. There we go. So that is our accent loop on the larger bead, and we're just going to trim that end off and tuck it in. Sorry, these cutters are really not sharp. And we're going to just take that little pokey bit that's there that you can see. You may be able to see it's right there. I'm just going to press that down. Okay, so there is that phase one complete. Now we're going to go ahead and just real quick add the two drops onto these other loops. So this is once again our top drilled wire wrap. So we're going to go a little faster this time. Thank you, Keiko. Those are my favorite types of projects. So long and short end. Make your triangle. Like so. Bend up the long wire, wrap the short one around the long one, 1.5 to 2 times. Try and keep it centered if at all possible. Trim off your end and tuck it in. And then we're going to do our basic wire wrap. Away, rotate, back up over the top, rotate underneath to make Our Lady with a scarf, like so, and then we're going to link onto the next loop. Now you can totally do this with actually, graduated size beads where you've got a big one in the center and then slightly smaller ones here and smallest ones there. That reminds me, did I do that? Or are you all the same size? You're all basically the same size. Okay, so we're just going to slide that up and pop that in there. And then this one I'm going to do a hat on. So we're going to go ahead and hold across that loop. And if you wind up holding your frame, that's fine. You're going to wrap all the way down. Good Lord. You're going to wrap all the way down until you reach the end that's already there. This one's, okay, I'm sorry. I don't care if I'm in a hurry. This one's ugly looking. I'm redoing this. But that's just to show you all that even I do ugly wraps. That's awesome. Hi, Turbo. We love you. People you've never met love you. So Keiko, remind me, is Naz short for Nazgul or something else?
Yes.
Yes, okay. See, it's back now. Again, Lori did actually look up the thing about the internet and the heat, and it is actually a thing. Sorry, I'm just getting myself back to the point where I was, but with a less ugly wrap. Yay! Nazgul! Much prettier than a Nazgul, in my opinion. Just saying. Because they were not very pretty under their cloaks.
Oh, Discord posted you finished streaming.
It was an internet blip. I'm back now.
Oh, you are?
I should be. It's gonna take a minute for me to show up for everybody, though. Oh.
Oh, it's back.
We're back? Okay. Yes. Not at home, Sharon, or sorry, not at work, at home. And of course it went out at 3:40. Well, I finally realized that it was out at 3:45 on Sunday. So, you know, no one's gonna get out there at 3:45 on a Sunday to fix your AC. So it didn't get fixed until 6 p.m. on Monday. So that was a very, very sweaty 30 hours or so. Okay, so now I've got a better proportion here. My stick on that one was way too long. So now I'm gonna add that to this. So we're just going to thread that on and pop it in there like so. And then once again, this time not so awkwardly and uglily. Is uglily even a word? I don't think so. I'm gonna hang on to that loop like so, and then I'm gonna wrap down to meet the end that's already there. Just being awkward as all get out. Okay, so wrap down until you get to the end that's already there. Come on, camera, pick that up. I need to rework my camera positions again. And then you can just leave it like this if you want. Or you can continue wrapping down and make a little hat over your bead. And the main thing if you're going to do that is you want to make sure that your bead stays straight, because if your bead is crooked like that, when you make your hat, your bead is going to be wrapped crooked like that. It's going to stay like that. So it's kind of this fine, like, until you catch the top of the bead, you just have to police its movements a little more. Once you've caught the top of the bead like that, then you can just keep wrapping down. And at this point, sometimes I find it easier to move down and hold this. Just make sure you hold gently, because if you hold too firmly, you are going to smash it. And then you can just go ahead and trim your wire off, like so, and just press down. Go on, everybody. So there we go. So there's our first peridot. So now we're going to go ahead and put on the other three. Yeah, thankfully neither Mamie nor Elton really take an interest in my crafting or computer work the way that Ziggy did. Mamie especially tends to steer clear, and Elton will kind of like hop up there and sniff around and then be like, this is boring, and leave. Sometimes I miss everything about Ziggy, even his craziness, but I really sometimes miss his disrespect for my personal space. If that makes sense. Alright, so there we go. Now we're going to do Our Lady with the scarf. Alright, so there we go. So we're going to go ahead and link that onto this one here. Like so. And then hold across. We have seen Naz wanting to be the star of the Zoom Hangout. And Turbo. Though not so much now that Lori's crafting in the basement, but pre-basement. Oh, and you know, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do a hat, because otherwise it's going to look weird. Sometimes you can get away with like not doing hats on the end ones, but this grouping is so small, at only 5 beads that I think that's just going to look weird. So we're just going to do a hat on this one. All right, and then we've got 2 more. So I'm just going to, just for like a time reference, I'm going to show you how fast it actually goes when I'm not trying to do it on camera and at a somewhat awkward angle. And once again, this is a practice thing. So the more you do this, the faster and better you're going to do it. I mean, all kitty Zoom hangouts. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Okay, so I'm just gonna narrate. So I've got my wire through, and I'm gonna bring it up, and I'm gonna break my bead. That was not the plan. Let's try that with this one. All right, so again, bending my wires up, bend my long one up, wrap around, trim, tuck my end in, grab my round nose, make my lady with a scarf, thread it onto my component that I made, pop it on there, hold across, and wrap. Make my hat. And trim, press it down. So that's one done. Yes, exactly. Mamie is not about snuggles at all. And Elton is, you can tell he wants to be about snuggles, but he's still so skitty from being a street cat that he really can't like relax and enjoy the snuggle. He'll like, you know, come up to you and he'll like knead and purr, and then he'll like sit tensely, and then maybe he'll relax a little bit for a minute, and then he'll be like, oh, this is dangerous, bye. So maybe he will be a true snuggle kitty in about 3 or 4 years, but the trauma of being a street cat is not, or not the trauma, but the ingrained paranoia of a street cat has not left him yet. Though I will tell you, like, because right after I got Elton, I had COVID, and he slept on me a lot when I had COVID, and same when I had food poisoning on Saturday. I went home and laid in bed, and he just laid right there with me.
He's like, oh, I have COVID again.
They like when we're stuck at home.
Well, they definitely like when we're stuck at home. I think he also knew that I wasn't feeling good, so he's a good nurse kitty. Alright, so I'm wrapping and making my last hat now. And trim. Press down. That's awesome. Videos for cats. Mamie and Elton think videos for cats is chasing birds and lizards. Like actual birds and lizards. Alright, so there we go. That's it. That's our project. So all you would do to make this into a necklace is grab a chain at the length of your choice, attach a clasp to it at one end, and then attach it to this piece using jump rings or wire wraps if you're so inclined. Sorry, my face is totally in the way. Ladies with scarves everywhere. So that's it. That's our 5-drop pendant. Thank y'all so much for hanging out while I went. It is truly an hour tutorial, which is unfortunate since I started half an hour late. So upcoming, thank you. I like the peridot with the gold, and I like the peridot with the lab. It's not going to focus because I changed the focal distance. But yeah, it is. It's a really pretty color combo, and it's one that I don't see as often as I would like, because I really do think that, especially with the green flash lab, I think they complement each other really nicely. All right, so coming up is the button list with Allison and Heather. We are going to be playing the Queen's English tonight, which is a game about British colloquialisms, and seeing if Heather and I can sort out what they mean. Give us about 10 minutes for me to download the brand new button list graphic created by Corvus and shove a taco in my face, and then we will be back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream, with the button list with Allison and Heather. All right, we'll see you soon. And I still don't have an outro screen, so anyway.